Hi, everyone. So here we are. Spring break is behind us, and we're ready to jump into the next module. So I know it was a little weird to have a spring break right in the middle of module one. And if you need a little more time to get things finished up, please just let me know. We don't have we don't have infinite amounts of time, but I do have time to be flexible if you need that. Just communicate with me and let me know if I can be helpful. And so our module this week is a really important one. I actually think the whole class, all the modules are important, but this one's probably maybe more important than some. So our topic for the next 2 weeks is equity and equality and how we can create a learning environment for our students where they feel comfortable, where they feel represented, where they feel included, and where they feel safe to participate in the learning activities that we're taking them on. What's fun about that, or what's interesting about that, is there are really some research-based strategies that you can use to upgrade your class to hit all of these bases. So let's do a screen share. Let's jump into what we'll be doing for the next 2 weeks. When you first come to the class homepage, if you scroll down, you'll notice now that Module 2 is now open. And as you go through the different activities, you'll be able to just do a quick check here to see things. You can always go to the modules tab, of course, but it's right here also on the home page. So let me jump to the introduction. This video that you're watching, you're probably watching it from this spot right here on the home page. And I'm not going to read through all the details here, but in general, this module will hit SLO number 1. And so what we're looking for is creating, analyzing, and evaluating online learning content using current research-based strategies, specifically looking at equity and accessibility in this content. So that's our aim. Our aim is to hit all of these outcomes. Let's go down and look at the checklist, and you'll notice there's 2 due dates. So there's some things that are actually due by April 18th, by Sunday, April 18th. Okay. And we'll get to the actual assignments in just a minute. And then the big assessment project is actually due by April 25th. So you have 2 weeks for that. But what I highly recommend is just scan through the whole unit, scan through the whole module so you know what you're looking for and you know what needs to be done. What we'll do is we'll jump in and we'll look at this Peralta Online Equity rubric. We'll look at a couple of the resources there, and then we'll jump into details on the assignments. So clicking on the Peralta Online Equity rubric, what this is this is something that was developed by Peralta Community College District. And what they were trying to do was come up with an objective way to look at course design to ensure that it was equitable and inclusive. So they come up with some concrete things you can look at here. I highly recommend watching this video by Professor Menchaca because she goes into detail on each of the 8 criteria. I'm just going to do a brief overview here. And so the 8 criteria are technology, student resources and support, universal design for learning, that should sound familiar, right? Diversity and inclusion, images and representation, human bias, content meaning, and connection and belonging. So we'll just look at a couple of these because they're all set up more or less the same way. So let me click on technology, the first one. For each of these sections, what you'll have is a description, some details about it, and then a resource section. All right, and each of the resource sections are more or less the same. They'll all have this wakelet that gives you lots of online resources. And then they'll also have a reference section. And so if this is something you really want to know more about and you want to know the research behind it, you can click on this research section and there'll be a listing of articles that'll more or less be the same. Some of the topics might have different things depending on what's relevant to that topic. So go on to the next to look at another one. Equity rubric, student resources and support. So same thing. You've got some details. There's some information about additional elements. There's some specific details about Canvas and about BC resources. So if you're looking at this and you're from another school, some of those may or may not be relevant, but it will give you an idea of what to look for. And again, we have the wakelet and we have some references. So as you go through each of the different sections, the UDL, diversity and inclusion, images and representation, human bias, content meaning, and connection and belonging all have the same structure. And so definitely read through those. None of them are very long, but all of them will give you an idea of what you'll be looking for on the assignments. So the first of the three assignments for this module, the first one's a checking in because we're halfway through the class. And I love to ask this question, where are you at? All right. And it's kind of a weird question. If you've been with me in other classes, you know, you've heard me say this before, where are you at? And so that's something that actually comes from, I learned that when I was in New Orleans. It's part of the New Orleans dialect that they have there. And where you at doesn't have to do so much with what your location is. It kind of has to do with where your heart and your head are. All right. So it's more of a asking you, what's your state of mind? Like, how are things going? And so in this journal entry, I've only got a couple of questions for you. All right. Where are you at? You know, we're in the middle of a crazy year. We're still dealing with the pandemic-y things. Um, you know, this has been a busy semester for a lot of people. It's spring. I don't know about you, but spring is always harder because you get a little bit of spring fever. You want to get out and do things. And so what I want to know is where are you at? Like, what's your state of being? Give me one word, maybe one sentence that helps unpack that. And then tell me what's going well. Pick something in the class that you've learned or that's made you curious, that you've wanted to investigate more, that you found useful. So give me one thing and tell me why. The next question is, what is challenging? Now, don't say everything, okay? That might be true, but don't say everything. Give me one thing that you're finding particularly challenging about the content in the class and about applying it to your own work, okay? And let me know how that's going. The next question, do you have any other questions? What questions do you still have? Is there something I can do to be helpful? Can I clarify something for you? Is there a topic you want to make sure we cover? And then the last one's kind of the anything else. Is there anything else you want to include in your checking in? Do you have any suggestions or questions or feedback? This is the none of the above, all of the above open mic question. All right. And so you'll submit that. You can make a video and respond to all of those. You can write it up in a Google Doc and give me the shared link. You can upload a file, you know, pretty much however you want to get that to me. Definitely go ahead and get that to me. I'd like that by Sunday, April 18th. I'd really like that before then, if possible, because I'd like to be able to respond to you by the end of the week. So as soon as you can get to that one, definitely get that turned in. I'm really curious about that. All right. The next assignment is a two-part discussion with your learning pod. And so you'll be discussing this with the people in your group. And what we're going to look at is we're taking this equity rubric. All right. And I've got part one, I've got them all listed out here. And each one of these categories has a couple of questions. And so what you're going to do is look at your own course, either a current course you're doing or a future course that you're working on, and pick at least two of the questions. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of questions here. You don't have to answer all the questions. Pick two of the questions and relevant to your course, write up the responses. All right, you can either record it, you can write it out. You're going to share this to your Learning Pod discussion forum for this. You'll come down here, you'll hit reply, and you'll put in your response. Okay, make it clear which questions you're responding to. And definitely take a look at the rubrics so that you understand. If you click up here and you click on show rubric, this will help you understand what we're looking for in your responses. Okay, so that's part one. That's due next Sunday, Sunday the 18th. Part two involves thoughtfully responding to at least two of your classmates. The groups are pretty small, so if you wanted to respond to everybody in your group, that would be fantastic also. And further the conversation a little bit. Give them some ideas for teaching strategies that might help them with that particular element if you can. Maybe look for some alternative perspectives about the criteria. In some way, move the ball down the court, okay? Help them out, continue the conversation, add some resources, add to the knowledge base, right? So that's that discussion, two parts. Part one due next week, part two due on the 25th. Now for the assessment for this project, now you're going to take this rubric, and this has a couple of parts to it, okay? So you're going to evaluate a course, preferably your course, using this rubric. And so you'll notice there's 3 links here. Link 1 has the rubric. Okay, so this is the actual rubric, and it gives you incomplete, aligned, or additional elements information. And it lists each of those things we've been talking about: technology, student support resources, etc. It's a pretty simple rubric to look at. So you're going to look at that. Part 2 is you're going to look at, well, what I would do is I'd look at the example first, because this second one is actually a blank document. So let's look at the example. I'm just going to do the preview. I'm not going to download it and all that. So on this one, you're going to take the blank example document. You're going to look at your course. You're going to give it a rationale. So you're going to say incomplete or aligned, decide which one it is and give some explanation for that, okay? And then pick 2 of those, not all of them. Pick 2 of those to make some changes to, and list out what you changed, and then either submit screenshots or a video describing it in some manner, demonstrate what it is that you changed so that we can see what it is that was changed. All right. So this second one here, this, like I said, is the blank document. So you can download this one and fill it all in. And then what you'll do is you'll start your assignment. You'll upload that document, submit the document with screenshots. I prefer screen share because then you can actually describe what you're doing instead of just pictures that don't have any context, and use that as supporting evidence of your modifications. So you're going to look at all of the criteria, but you're going to pick 2. And the 2 criteria are things that you can modify in some manner based on this rubric to bring it into alignment with what the Peralta equity rubric is talking about. So that'll wrap it up for our 2 weeks. That'll give you plenty to do, but you have 2 weeks to do it. But again, I recommend you take a good look at that rubric sooner than later, so that as you're going through things, you have an idea of what you're looking for, and you can start sharing ideas and use your learning pod as a place to bounce some ideas off of, some things that that you might want to look at and adjust, and see if you guys can share ideas. As always, I'm available on Discord. A lot of people contact me there, and it's a really quick way to get responses. I don't see messages on the discussion forums as quickly because I don't get the notifications quite as fast. It's a daily notification thing. And so if you want a quick response, Discord's the way to do it. Send me a message there. And you can always email me as well. Use Canvas inbox and let me know what you need to know. So I'm here to help. I'm excited about what you're doing this week. I can't wait to look over the assessments from week 1 or from module 1 and give you some feedback on that. I'm still on the other end of the country, and so I've got some stuff lined up this week, but I'm going to definitely put some time into looking at your projects that you've submitted and responding to your questions. So I'm looking forward to your checking in. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.